All right, guys, we have Harry and Meghan doing the QTC, whatever it is. Harry at the time was the president of this, so we're going to see how Meghan takes over, even though Harry was the president. Thank you, Paula M., for sending this.
It's such a good point, Mike, that you say, because I think a lot of it as well is in that self-reflection, it's acknowledging whatever mistakes we've all made, right? So if we look at the Commonwealth, and I know part of the conversation we're going to explore.
So something that was a really great point that I was talking about with Paula M. the other week, Meghan takes up more of the camera space, and she's very aware of this, right? If you look, Harry's at the edge, Meghan has empty space, so she's closer to the middle, and this is at all times, right? It's in person and it's on the camera. She understands the camera. It's ultra selfish. It's ultra annoying. Again, I've said it a few times, I used to know a girl, I used to always as the example, who would always shove her way in the middle of things. It was very obvious, like someone would move and she'd shove her way. It was so annoying. Meghan does that times 50.
Or later on is looking at the history of that. But if you start on that macro level, you also have to look on a more micro level with each of us individually. What have we done in our past that we put our hand up? And I think this is a moment of reckoning where so many people go,
oh my gosh, buzzword bonanza, reckoning, they're all saying this stuff. And it's so annoying, the people who are doing this, when they say we, they don't mean we. It's a great way to chastise people and be a great person for doing it. That's the most annoying thing. It's like, let's go tell people they're bad and they've done bad things, and so that we're in this position of power, like we're their parent, a bad parent who gets to punish them, and for that we're a good person. Ridiculous. And Meghan's hand movements are literally pushing Harry out of the frame.
You know what? I need to own that. Maybe I didn't do the right thing there. I knew what I knew. However, now it's time to reset in a different way. And I think both of us, it's part of the conversation we've had quite a bit in our calls over the last few weeks surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement, for everyone to be a part of this conversation.
Which, not to be controversial, I'm not going to say anything for or against that movement, but it's been proven that a massive amount of money was stolen by the people who are running it. That's completely proven. They were giving it away to their families, like they had like their cousin had a security company, gave him like millions of dollars, and that actually hurts people more who donated to that movement. I'm not saying for or against, but just that as an organization, it was corrupt. That's completely proven. You could Google it. Ridiculous. So millions of dollars were stolen from people who donated to that, by the way.
When it comes to sort of institutional and systemic racism, it's there and it stays there because someone somewhere is benefiting from it. We can't deny or ignore the fact that all of us have been brought up and educated to see the world differently. However, once you start to realize that there is that bias there, then you need to...
Harry sounds so stupid. You know, I think with Meghan, like, the stuff she says is not unique at all. Like, if you go to most colleges now, you know, in the US at least, this is what they teach you. This is what, you know, if someone goes, they're freshmen, now this is how they talk afterwards. To Harry, I guess he's not, you know, he's used to like doing drugs and parties. So this is like a big deal. Like, wow, she's so smart. And now he's like slowly getting it, trying to parrot it.
You need to acknowledge it, but then you need to do the work to be able to become more aware so that you can... Exactly what you're saying.
Well, and I think so much of what we're seeing as well is that, you know, it's not even in the big moments, right? It's in the quiet moments where racism and unconscious bias lies, and as you've said, lies and hides and drives. And it's those nuances.
The thing is, again, it's cult speak. I'm not saying, like, on the surface, these aren't good causes. Treat people well. But why say it's cult speak is it doesn't mean anything. Like, they use all of these words where if you're not like in the group involved in like the sociology professor made up stuff, you're not going to really understand what they're talking about. That's why I say it's a cult, because it's constant changing words and changing language. Why don't you speak in like actionable steps? Like, treat people well. Don't judge people, you know, based on how they look. Well, you can, based on how their demeanor is, but don't do it based on their ethnicity or something like that, right? Like, those are like practical steps that make sense to everybody that no one can disagree with, but it's just using these millions of words. And again, I think the purpose of it is people make careers out of it, like Meghan. They go up there, they use these million words, they get power, they get prestige, and they're not actually giving practical steps to treat people better, which would be a good thing and is not that complicated.
I think makes it confusing for a lot of people to understand the role that they play in that, either passively or actively, but I think even more so passively. And so much of what I've come to the understanding of, especially in learning even more about it of late, and obviously having had personal experience with it as well, but in people's
here's another thing too, this completely violates principles of what works, right? That's something that's like, so many of these things are just wrong in their approach. So I've heard, there was like this book, and it was this woman talking about how they did like a shame-based thing to change her perspective on things, and now she was responsible. That's what cults do, by the way. It's called a hot seat, where you just berate people. But that being said, this whole thing, like, let me see what's wrong with me and how it's my fault, that doesn't produce change in people. Like, when you have somebody and they're like, oh, I'm such a terrible person for eating too much, or I'm terrible for not exercising, that tends to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So chastising people, again, I think it's for people like Meghan involved in these things, they enjoy that. It's enjoyable for the person doing it to chastise and talk about other people are bad, but real change, you want to inspire people. Say, you know what, we can do things like, you're a good person and you could do good. Don't tell people they're bad. If you want them to do good, tell them they're good and that they can do good. Even if they were doing bad, you give them the positive to live up to. If you look at any good leader, that's what they've done. They've not gone around chastising people.
Complacency, they're complicit. Yeah. And that, I think, is the
shift.
shift.
F you, Meghan. If you're complacency, you're complicit. So it's basically like, if you don't act exactly the way, they use these extremes, exactly the way that I recommend, then you're responsible for every bad thing in the world. That's literally what they're saying. You're complicit, right? So it's just ridiculous. It's about shaming people. It's about bullying people. It's about power. And that's the thing that's annoying, because you have all these people like Meghan, where they're in these buzzword bonanza groups, where it's like they think they're all good, right? It's like, I have nothing bad about me ever, and other people are all bad. They don't acknowledge that, you know what, there's bad in me, that everyone could have bad tendencies. They want it all for other people. So they don't acknowledge that, actually, no, you're enjoying bullying people. You enjoy that you have power, that you could tell people that they're bad and they're responsible for bad things. It's bullying. And again, I said this before, I miss old bullying. Bullying's bad, but it was nice when it was just like, hey, I'm a jerk, I'm stronger than you, I'm gonna treat you badly. The worst bullying is for like, I'm a great person and that's why I bully people. Anyway, see you.